Time to work on a power stroke while wearing a Cummins hat. What do you think about that? I'm Equal Opportunity Diesel. So I'm not doing anything that's that big of a deal. I'm just going to change out the fuel filter and the fuel water separator on the truck. I've had the truck a couple months and it has 22,000 miles on it. And I couldn't find a record that they had been changed before. I did call the dealer where I bought the truck from because the original owner had purchased it, serviced it, and traded back into the dealer from where I bought the truck from. And they didn't have any record of it having been changed. So I figured I'm going to go ahead and do that so I have a benchmark. I know where I'm starting from. However, I do think that the fuel water separator has probably been changed, and hopefully both of them, but I don't know when. I'll show you that in just a little bit. So I'm going to dive into it. Hopefully it goes pretty smooth. This is my first time, but shouldn't be a big deal. Let's jump in and see what happens. I'll show you what I got here. It comes in a box with the fuel filter and the fuel water separator, using Ford parts. Only going to use Ford parts for the fuel filter and all, because that's really important. There's the fuel water separator, and it comes with a gasket for the cover for the separator. And then there's also the fuel filter right there that goes under the hood. So I do have a mason jar. I'm going to drain the fuel water separator into this jar and then just let it sit and see how much water is actually in the separator at the moment. So it should separate, because water's heavier than the diesel, so it'll separate if there is any. So we'll test that and see how much is actually in there. And so that'll be kind of fun. And they say you should probably drain that. Some people say every month. Some people say every 5,000 miles. I might change or drain it out once a month. Pretty easy. Just turn the little knob and drain the fuel out. So easy enough to crawl under the truck and do that once a month. All right, I got my stuff down here. Got a drain pan, a jar. I'll put the jar inside the drain pan before I open the valve on the plug, and crawl on under and get to it. On my F450 cab chassis, the fuel tank is at the back of the truck, and the fuel water separator is in the front of the tank. So I'm at the front of the fuel tank, and you can see the bottom of the fuel water separator here. This is a valve. You can turn that a quarter turn and that will drain the tank. This is the plug to the sensor. So I need to unplug the sensor before I drain it out. And so go ahead and crawl underneath here a little bit more and get to that. Go ahead and unplug this plug. There we go. Plug's off. I got my drain pan here beneath me. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this quarter turn, see if I can capture a lot of this fuel, at least a jar worth. After that, I'm just gonna let it drain till it stops. Just trying to let that finish up. Wait till it stops here. It's pretty much empty, but there's probably a little bit in this tray. I'll go ahead and turn that back. Whichever way. There it goes. These bolts have some scraping on them, like there's been a wrench on there before, a socket on there before loosening these up. That's why I think that this has been changed and drained and had the filter change on this. So I think it had been changed, but don't know for sure. So, all right, got my screw gun, 8mm socket. There's 5 8mm bolts. Loosen those up. They don't come all the way out, thankfully. Last one. There we go. Just kind of stick on a little bit. There's the filter, just like that. drains on the passenger side. Let's get this out, clean it up, change filter. Just gonna pull this old gasket out of here. Set that aside. Take this outside, clean it up. Some brake clean. Okay, gonna put this new gasket in. Make sure it sits down in the groove all the way. I did clean off my gloves, make sure I don't have any dirt on my gloves. Firm push down in there, make sure it sits down in there nice and snug. There you go. Definitely using Motorcraft stuff. Gonna go like this, shiny side towards me. The little hooks there, gonna sit down inside this, inside the bottom cover, and then just gonna slide it. There you go, it's in. Slide it to the right, it's in. For the install, slide it to the left, just take it out. Easy as that. So, got the gasket in, the filter's in, time to reinstall it. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm getting it on camera, but putting the filter back on. Filter's in place. Move the plug. Slide it back up in there. Feels good. I'm just going to very lightly tighten these screws up. Tighten these all up by hand. Don't want to over tighten them with the drill. All right, there it is. Plug them back in. Done with that part. Okay, so now that I got the fuel water separator in, I just need to turn the ignition on 6 times for 10 seconds each, just to let it help fill the fuel water separator back up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. I'm actually not going to start the truck. I'm just going to turn the ignition on for 10 seconds. You can actually hear the fuel here. So the separator is filling back up with diesel. It's more than 10 seconds, but that's fine. It's just running the fuel pump. So with the camper on the truck, it makes the truck squat down, which leaves me just a little bit of space to get down underneath the truck. So it is kind of tight, so sorry about the camera work. I was trying to get under there and do the best I can, but it's a tight place. It'd be sure would be a whole lot easier to do this job if it was on a lift, or even if the camper wasn't on it, the back of the truck would be up a couple more inches. Now that I got the lower fuel filter done, I'm gonna go ahead and tackle the upper fuel filter that's underneath the hood. Let's take a look. The fuel filter is right here. So I need to disconnect the fuel lines to it and swap it out. By the way, this is not a how-to video. It's just a what I'm doing today video. I'm just kind of showing you what I'm doing as I'm getting this thing done here. So I'm not doing a full step-by-step on the install, but you can at least get an idea of what it takes to get the job done. All right, I've never done this before, so I'm just gonna have to figure it out as I go. Don't think it'll be too difficult. Just gonna put this towel down here because I'm sure I'll be getting some fuel coming out of here when I pull these fuel lines off. All right, just doing the best I can here. I try to start with this outside plug. Just kind of pushing each side back as I go. There we go. I think that one's all the way out actually. And this should, take my screwdriver just to make that one kind of came back. There we go. There we go. Pull that one out. Pull that one out of the way a little bit. Wants to go right back on. That's all right. I'll just leave it loose. I think there's 2 little squeeze tabs on the back, apparently. Squeeze those tabs and the center section pops up. A little bit of fuel come out there. Just gonna hold that back there. Whoa, the ladder just slipped. I almost busted. Almost did a face plant into the engine. Just gonna squeeze it and raise up the green tab here a little bit. Sorry about the bad camera work. That's what happens when you're doing it by yourself. Okay, I think that's all the way up. Will that come off? Don't know. Yep. Came off. Make that sure I didn't push that down a little bit. Yeah, it's all the way up. All right. Here we go. So should just be able to rotate the filter and pick it up out of here. Not sure how far you have to rotate it. Feels like that's it. Yep, there we go. Tilt fuel up. All right, I got a new filter here. Let me wipe up some of my mess. Made a bit of a mess. Okay, my light just fell. Again, this little tab here has to sit down in this groove right back in there on the housing. So get in there, push it down, rotate it, and there it is. So I need to do everything in reverse here. Just push these tabs all the way out. Make sure it's unlocked on that one. Push it in, lock it. Okay. Pull this cover off. Center one. Push it on till it clicks. Push that clip back down to lock it. And the last one. Make sure that green tab's sticking up. Push that one on all the way. That one does not really click, but it locks on. So that's it. Get my damp towel out of there, wipe everything off. All right, that's it. Not too bad for a filter change. This upper filter sure a whole lot easier than that lower filter, I'll tell you that much. Okay, now that I'm done with the upper filter, I need to go ahead and do the same cycle with the key 6 times, 10 seconds a piece, to let the fuel pump fill up the upper fuel filter. So filling up the rear filter, lower filter, fuel water separator, and then filling up the upper fuel filter that we changed out. Truck's making some funny noises as it's filling up. I think it's just about done. Gonna get all the air out of the line. Okay, so actually I did a time or 2 extra just for good measure. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but that's what I did, and it sounds like the fuel's actually stopped flowing for the most part, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to fire it up. Sounds good. Shut it off. One more time, I'm gonna start it up. All right, I think I'm good. So I went ahead and opened up the garage door and the truck is running. I'm gonna crawl underneath, check that fuel water separator. All right, I'm underneath it. Everything looks good. I don't see any drips. I don't see any leaks. That's good. Truck is running fine. Ready to go camping. One thing I find pretty amazing about these clean idle diesel trucks, both my Ram 4500 that I had and this Ford F450 here, they're both cab chassis trucks, so they have to be clean idle trucks. And it is amazing to me. I've had my face right in front of the exhaust while they're running, and you can't hardly even smell that they're running. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it really cleans the diesel exhaust. Now, I'm not saying you should get down there and breathe that in at all. Should not do that. But I've actually had the experience of having my face right there next to it and can't hardly even tell it's running. So here's the fuel that I pulled out of the fuel water separator to begin with, and I don't see any water at the bottom yet. I don't know how long it takes to separate. I'll let it sit overnight and we'll find out tomorrow if it separates a little bit more. I did open that valve about a month ago just to see how much would come out, and so there could have been a little bit of water that may have been in there originally that came out, but I shut the valve off pretty quick because I didn't actually drain it out like I did today. So we'll see. I'll check it tomorrow and see if there's any water at the bottom. The jar is sat overnight and it looks really clear. I don't see any water in there, so that's a good sign. I'm guessing the filters were probably changed not too long ago, or at least the water had been drained out. So glad to see that. Just for the fun of it, let's see if we can take this white part of the filter off. See how it actually looks inside. Looks like it'll unclip. Dissect this thing and see what it looks like. Doesn't look like it's very dirty, so I'm guessing that these filters have been changed. Could be wrong, but it doesn't look that bad from the outside anyhow. I think what I'm going to do is just snip all these ends here. See if that'll help. This part really doesn't look that bad. Looks pretty clean, not all that dirty. The filter itself doesn't really look that dirty. You can put a flashlight on it. Actually, I'm going to put a flashlight behind it. It doesn't really look like this lower fuel filter was really all that dirty to me, which is a good thing. So I'm guessing somebody had probably replaced this, both filters, probably the lower and upper, sometime fairly recently. So there was no record of it, but it looks like the past owner most likely did that. So that's good to see. At least I know it probably does not have 22,000 miles on it. And so glad to see that. So thanks for hanging out with me today while I'm working on the truck. I know I'm not a mechanic, but just doing my best. So I'm sure if there's anybody out there who's watching that is a mechanic, and I'm sure I did do everything right, you know, you can comment below whatever I did wrong. That's fine. But I think the job will be good, and I'll probably wait about 15,000 miles and I'll do it again. Ford actually recommends 30,000 miles to change the fuel filters on this truck, but I'll probably do it more so around 15 or so. But job's done, and now I'm ready to go camping. And again, thanks for hanging out. Please like, subscribe, share, and all that stuff. We'll see you next time on Runaway Roses. Bye-bye.